A year ago, I met a woman who seemed perfect, funny, sociable, and affectionate. We hit it off quickly and started planning for a future together. Little did I know, greed and entitlement would soon unravel everything. It all began innocently enough. She told me her parents were facing financial struggles and had car troubles, worrying they wouldn't be able to run errands easily. I sympathized and even offered to help find a budget-friendly used car. She seemed appreciative at first, but soon her attitude shifted. She began hinting that her parents deserved something more, something nice. A car that would reflect well on them. I brushed it off, not realizing she meant a high-end luxury model. Then, a month before our wedding, she dropped the bombshell. She wanted me to buy her parents a brand new luxury car. She named a model that cost more than my entire annual salary. I was shocked. I politely reminded her that I wasn't made of money, but she dismissed my concern. "We're getting married," she said brightly. "Your money is our money soon, right? My parents deserve the best. This is a once-in-a-lifetime wedding gift." I tried to reason with her. Even if I had enough savings, blowing it all on an expensive car wasn't practical. We had a future to think about, housing, potential children, and emergencies. She shrugged it off and insisted that love meant honoring her family, especially before the wedding. When I offered a more modest solution, or at least suggested discussing a loan that her parents could repay, she scoffed, calling me cheap. The arguments escalated. She grew snappier, labeling me stingy and unromantic. She argued that if I truly cared about her parents, my future in-laws, I should prove it with a grand gesture. Meanwhile, I found it absurd that she expected me to foot such a massive bill without any plan for managing the debt. She didn't even want her parents to co-sign or contribute. She just wanted me to swipe my credit card and present her parents with keys to a luxury car. 2 weeks before the wedding, tensions reached a breaking point. We were supposed to finalize the reception venue, but instead, she cornered me in the living room with glossy brochures, excitedly describing the features of the car. "Do you understand that we'd be in debt for years?" I asked. She rolled her eyes, snapping, "Stop whining. You'll find a way. My parents must have this gift." I refused outright. I told her in no uncertain terms that her demand was unreasonable and that I wasn't going to jeopardize our financial future. She glared at me and delivered an ultimatum. "If you don't buy them the car, this wedding might not happen. I won't marry someone who can't respect my parents." My heart pounded. This was the real her, someone who would toss away our relationship over a material possession. I stood firm. She stormed off, slamming the door. I figured we would cool off and talk things through later, but little did I know, she was already plotting something behind my back that would take this betrayal to a whole new level. The next morning, I woke up to a strangely quiet apartment. She wasn't around, but I assumed she was out running errands. After a while, I noticed her luggage was gone. My chest tightened. I checked my phone, no messages. Then I looked around for her personal items. Everything was gone. Panic set in when I discovered that all my credit cards were missing. I checked my desk, rummaging through drawers, but a few envelopes containing spare cards and personal documents were also gone. I immediately called the bank. The representative informed me that there had already been suspicious activity, large charges at a luxury car dealership. It was exactly what I feared. She had taken my cards and tried to buy the dream car for her parents, or at least make a substantial down payment. The bank froze my accounts, and I filed a fraud alert. I was a mix of fury and betrayal. She had threatened not to marry me unless I caved to her demands, and when I refused, she helped herself to my finances. Friends urged me to go to the authorities, and I agreed. This was no longer just a lover's spat, it was theft. I went to the police, recounted the whole twisted story, and filed a report. The police took my statement, saw the bank confirmations, and said they would investigate. I was left in a daze. How had I ended up with someone who would do this? Just before our wedding? For 2 days, there was no word from her. The wedding date was approaching, but everything was falling apart. I informed the venue that we had to put our booking on hold due to a family emergency. In the meantime, I tried to stay calm, though I felt humiliated. My fiancé had vanished with my credit cards. At least the bank confirmed they blocked her attempts to finalize the car purchase, sparing me from massive debt. On the third day, I received a call from the police. They had tracked down the car dealership she visited. Apparently, she had convinced a salesman to start the paperwork for a nearly six-figure vehicle, telling him it was a wedding gift from me to her parents. The transaction was pending my final signature. It all began when the dealership realized my credit card had been flagged for fraud. They demanded an explanation, and that's when my fiancé bolted, leaving behind a partial deposit attempt that never cleared. I provided all the relevant information to the detective, who assured me they'd keep me updated. I felt torn. On one hand, I was heartbroken that things had fallen apart so catastrophically, but on the other, I wanted justice. She had tried to commit felony theft under my name. This wasn't a misunderstanding. She had intentionally stolen my cards and run off. Word spread quickly among friends and family that our wedding might be canceled. Many were baffled, so I gave them a truncated version. We'd had a major conflict over finances, and she left abruptly. Some guessed it was related to her parents, who were known for living beyond their means. A few close friends were shocked she'd go as far as stealing my cards, while others asked if maybe we could work things out if she returned. But the gravity of her betrayal was too much to overlook. Then, one evening, she showed up at my doorstep, disheveled and upset. She tried to push her way inside, crying and offering apologies. Panicked, she said, "I thought you'd eventually say yes, so I wanted to speed up the process." As if that could justify stealing my cards and trying to buy a luxury car with them. I demanded to know where my cards were. She shrugged, claiming she'd tossed them once the bank flagged them. She said she was scared of the consequences. My anger boiled over. "You threatened me, vanished with my credit cards, and tried to saddle me with a huge debt for your parents," I stated plainly. "And now you say you panicked?" She tried to play the victim, whining about how her parents deserved a lavish gift and how humiliated she felt telling them we wouldn't get them one. She insisted she still wanted to marry me, but that we needed a fresh start, no strings attached. For a second, my heart softened. We'd shared genuine moments and planned a life together. But then I remembered the brazen theft and manipulation. "I've already filed charges," I told her. "The police are investigating." Her eyes widened. "You'd ruin my life with a criminal record over a misunderstanding?" That final phrase hit me like a slap. This wasn't a misunderstanding, it was fraud. The confrontation escalated. She accused me of being petty and unloving. I told her to leave, or I'd call the police. She stomped off, cursing me for destroying everything. My hands shook from the intensity of the argument, but I felt a grim satisfaction. I hadn't caved to her tears or false contrition. She had chosen her path, and now she had to face the consequences. In the days that followed, the detectives confirmed they had enough evidence to press charges. She'd used my cards without permission and attempted a large transaction. The dealership was cooperating, providing security footage and documentation. Part of me felt guilty about pressing charges against someone I once planned to marry, but the alternative was letting her walk free after trying to dig me into a financial sinkhole. She needed a reality check, and hopefully, the legal system would provide it. Friends who learned the full story were appalled by her entitlement. Some wondered if her parents had influenced her, but the truth was, she was an adult who made her own decisions. Her father reached out to me, livid that I'd involved the police. I told him to ask his daughter for the real story. He sputtered about family matters not belonging in court, ignoring that he was the intended beneficiary of the stolen money. I ended the call swiftly. Eventually, a court date was set. My ex-fiancé pleaded for me to drop the charges, claiming she was sorry. She even tried to spin a sob story about the mental stress that led her to make bad decisions, but she never once admitted to the real wrongdoing, expecting me to finance a luxury car for her parents. She wanted me to simply forgive and forget, presumably so she could avoid a criminal record. I refused. The police had my statement, the dealership had the evidence, and the prosecution felt it was a clear case of attempted fraud or theft. My ex hired a lawyer who reached out with a proposal. If I recanted or declined to testify, the case could settle. But I wasn't about to let her walk away scot-free. I told him I would testify if needed. Meanwhile, my ex bombarded me with calls, switching between tearful pleas and angry tirades. I blocked her after receiving a final text, "I'm done. This is on you." The case never went to a full jury trial, as she accepted a plea deal for reduced charges. She would have to pay restitution for any fees incurred by my bank, along with a small fine. She avoided jail time, but she was left with a misdemeanor on her record. I heard from a mutual friend that she was furious with me, claiming I overreacted and ruined her life. The friend asked if I felt any remorse, and I simply replied, she chose to commit credit card fraud. She nearly forced me into crippling debt for her parents' vanity. She can blame herself. With the wedding canceled, I had to contact the venue, caterers, and guests. It was embarrassing, but in truth, I was relieved. I couldn't imagine tying my life to someone who viewed me as a walking wallet for her parents. My finances recovered. The bank reversed some fees, and the credit card attempts never finalized. I changed my accounts, got new cards, and locked down my credit. At times, I wondered if I'd been naive or blind to her entitled streak. In hindsight, I saw minor red flags: her lavish tastes, dismissive attitude about money, and subtle remarks about how real men spoil their partners. I ignored them, thinking it was just talk. But once push came to shove, she turned into a thief who shattered any illusions about who she really was. Now, months later, I'm grateful the fiasco happened before we exchanged vows. I learned that no matter how charming someone appears, if they demand extravagant gifts for others, disregard your financial security, and then commit outright fraud, you have to protect yourself, even if it means pressing charges. Some might judge me for involving the law, but I see it as standing up for what's right. Without consequences, she'd likely do it again to someone else. In the end, I found closure, not by reconciling, but by refusing to waver when she came back begging. Her sense of entitlement was just too great, and her betrayal too severe. I pressed charges and let justice take its course. That was the best form of revenge, ensuring she faced the fallout of her actions. And it felt satisfying, knowing I wouldn't spend my life under the thumb of someone who tried to force me into debt for a fancy car. My future is wide open now, free from the illusions that nearly trapped me. I hope this version works for you. Let me know if you'd like any further changes.